Today when I was doing my grocery shopping, I saw English green peas. And I cannot remember the last time I ate a green pea, but for some reason they inspired me. And recently I've been in a little cooking phase of my life. For the first time in my life, I actually think that I get it when it comes to cooking. Like, I actually think I get it now. I think I understand what the hype is all about. I think I get why the grandmas are so into this shit. You know what I mean? I think I understand why people enjoy cooking. And I've tried to enjoy it in the past, and I've always found it far too tedious and really not that rewarding, if I'm being honest. I always found that going to a restaurant was more rewarding. And although I still love going to a restaurant, don't get me wrong, love it. Love it, love it. One of my favorite things to do in my free time. I finally think I understand what the hype is when it comes to cooking. I think I get it. And it's a hobby for me that's sticking and kind of getting me up in the morning, if I'm being honest. Like, the thought of waking up in the morning and cooking excites me. And that is priceless. Anyway, back to the green peas. I saw these green peas in the grocery store and I had a vision. And my vision was a soup with a basil broth and whole green peas and whole potato. Not whole potato, not like a whole potato, but like pieces of potato. And I was like, a recipe for this must exist. I can't have just come up with this off the dome. Like, I must have seen this before. You know, this must be a recipe that has been circulated through the internet or something. Like, I doubt that I just spontaneously developed this in my brain. So anyway, I bought all of the ingredients that I thought that I could need, and I came home and started researching basil, potato, pea soups. And to my surprise, nothing was coming up that matched what I was envisioning in my head. But I was so determined to make this soup in the way that I was picturing it in my head that I decided that I needed to just do some research and figure out how I could make it without following a recipe from somebody who actually knows what the fuck they're doing. Because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing when it comes to cooking. I still do not know how to properly dice an onion, etc., etc. So I did a lot of research. I probably spent an hour researching, okay, how long do I need to cook potatoes before I put them in the soup? Do I cook them in the soup from start to finish, or do I boil the potatoes before I put them in the soup? Like, what the fuck's going on here? How do I do this so that I don't fail and hate myself? Because there's nothing I hate more than wasting food. And if I make food that tastes really bad and is inedible, then I get really angry at myself because I hate wasting food and I think it's a terrible thing to do. And I avoid it at all costs. And that means that I actually do frequently eat foods that are burnt and or cooked improperly in order to not waste them. And that has caused me stomach pain, etc. Anyway, after all my research, I wrote out a pretty basic plan as to how I was going to make this soup. So the first thing I decided to do was to boil some peas and boil some potatoes. And based on my research, I found that boiling peas only takes about a minute or two, and boiling potatoes only takes about 15 to 20 minutes. So I boiled those for around that amount of time. Did I set a timer? Sure, I did. But the timer went off, and then I stopped it, and then I forgot to take things off the heat. Who knows how long I boiled them. Next, I did some chopping of shallot, and my shallots looked a little bit funky. I honestly thought that they were a little bit moldy, so I kept smelling them to make sure that they weren't moldy. I don't really know what this unknown gray substance is that's around the shallot, but it was the only shallot I had, so I kind of had to make do with what I had. After chopping these terribly, I threw them into a large pot over medium-low heat. Something that I'm just now learning when it comes to cooking is the importance of cooking on a lower heat. Like, I used to think that I just needed to cook everything on high heat, and like that was my path to success. But I'm learning that cooking things low and slow is really effective. Being patient, yes, it might be tempting to turn your heat up all the way when you're cooking something, but that's not good. It's not good. You don't have as much control, and it's just a mess. I finally learned how to cook eggs properly. I used to cook my eggs on high heat, and just now, recently, I learned how to make perfect scrambled eggs and a perfect fried egg, not burnt, even though I don't really mind the flavor of a burnt egg. I don't. But cooking things on a lower temperature is really important. Anyway, so I cooked the shallot over medium-low heat, and then I added some garlic for the last, say, 2 minutes of cooking that shallot. All of that went well. My kitchen started to smell very fragrant, which was exciting. My hands reeked of garlic and shallot, which used to really bug me. Like, it used to make me not want to cook with onion, garlic, shallot because I was so annoyed with how my hands would smell. But now I'm learning to kind of appreciate when my hands smell like food. You know what I mean? This might be kind of disgusting, but it's like, it's not like it's a bad smell. Like, it's yummy. Like, you know, like, I don't know. And before you go and call me a freak, you love onion and garlic. Yes, I'm talking to you. You love onion and garlic. You might not even know that you love it. But when you go to your favorite restaurant, I can guarantee the best tasting dish on the table probably has a shit ton of onion and garlic in it. Even though the smell is a little weird, it's still yummy. And sometimes I itch my armpit and cut a shallot within the same hour. And when I smell my hand later, I don't know if the rancid smell came from me itching my armpit or from the shallot. Anyway, so after that, I added 6 cups of water. I added in a teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of pepper. I added about 3 tablespoons of this vegetable bouillon, which was kind of intimidating to me because buying a pre-made bouillon, which is basically all of the delicious flavors of a stock packed into a paste so that you can mix it into water and then it flavors the water for soup. Okay. Like, buying a pre-made one is kind of scary, right? Because you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. The flavor is kind of unpredictable, especially if you haven't tried that specific bouillon before. And I've never used bouillon before. To be honest, I've never even made a soup. I've made a curry before, but I've never made a soup. So this whole experience was really scary. I was kind of shooting in the dark here. I was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And then things kind of started to get intense because this next step is kind of when my soup was about to turn into what I had dreamed it to be. It was like all the dirty work was done and it was almost time to assemble. So I removed the pan from the heat, put it into a blender, and added a half a cup of basil and a 1/4 cup of Parmesan. I probably could have added more Parmesan, honestly. I'm going through a cheese phase recently. I went a pretty long time without eating much cheese because I thought that it hurt my stomach, but it turns out it doesn't. And that was some of the best news I've gotten in a long time. Cheese doesn't hurt my stomach. Now, let me tell you, if I drink a glass of milk, it's a completely different story. But cheese, for whatever reason, doesn't bug me. And there is science behind it, and I have done the research, but I don't think anyone cares. So anyway, I threw everything into the blender except for my peas and my potatoes, and I blended that mixture up. And at first I was really worried. I will say I was concerned because in my brain I had imagined a vibrant green broth for my soup. But the vegetable bouillon that I added into the soup base just turned it kind of brown. And after blending in the basil, it was a little bit more green, but it wasn't as green as I imagined. So at this point, I was praying for a miracle because seeing this brown soup base kind of upset me. You know, it was like, wow, my dream is not coming together as I planned. But I didn't give up. And when I tried the soup base, I was shocked at how delicious it was. It was so flavorful, and I was really excited. This kind of put the pep back into my step. I was like, you know what? Maybe shit's not so bad after all. Maybe everything will be okay. But I didn't know for sure yet. I had a very strong fear that I didn't cook my peas and my potatoes correctly. I was very, 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 very concerned about this. But, you know, the show must go on. So I added the peas and the potato to the mixture, and I brought it up to a boil one last time. And that was the end of the soup. The soup was done. I garnished my soup with some Parmesan cheese because, again, I'm going through a cheese phase right now. I can't stop putting cheese on literally fucking everything. I'm serious. I also garnished my soup with a bit of chives. I love the way that chives look. I just think that they're so beautiful when they're finely chopped. They're like little tiny green circles. And I just think that they look great. I don't say this a lot, but I'm fucking proud of myself, and I'm proud of this fucking soup. And the way that I rate a cooking success is based on whether or not I would purchase it at a restaurant and for how much money I would purchase it for at a restaurant. And with this soup, I would definitely purchase it at a restaurant, and I would pay $17 for it.